Hello there! Welcome to this brand new episode of Hyper Heroes here on Hyper Rabbit Power Go. You may have noticed there is no video accompanying the audio. That is because the original file has been corrupted, therefore we cannot use it, but we made sure to still give you guys an entertaining experience, so please enjoy these never-before-seen behind-the-scenes photos from the set of Hyper Heroes, accompanied with the original audio recording of this week's episode. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We will see you, hopefully see you in the next one. What's up, Thumpers? Welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes here on Hyper Rabbit Power Go. Another week of talking about fun superhero stuff. I am so sorry.
You knocked over my phone, dang it.
Someone made a comment about your phone last week of like, how does he make it stand up?
Magic. I'm Doctor Strange. I went like this, and it totally
stands.
It's case. It's a case for my Galaxy, and it's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's perfection.
I need one of those.
Guys,
good.
a lot of people were really excited with last week's episode.
I need one, clearly.
You need one. We need to get a sponsor, don't we?
Yeah.
A lot of people last week were super excited about us talking about Invincible.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot
That's
of
right.
positive traction about excitement about maybe doing a
And you know what else is
podcast.
great? It is such a great community. Even the Invincible podcast was like, yeah, dudes, do it.
Yeah.
It was
Really?
like,
Even
they're
Image
awesome.
Comics.
Did they?
No
Even
way.
Image
No way. They
Image
reached
Comics
out?
responded to our
love
Instagram
it.
and they were like,
I love it.
awesome. And I was like,
What?
okay.
That's what's cool about being a fan of indie comics is that like the creators, the publishers, everybody involved are going to be way easier to like get to and like talk
Wow.
to. Do you know what I mean? Because it's
Wow.
like it's Invincible. That's a crazy thing. When I tweeted out about Invincible a week or so ago,
Yeah.
like Robert Kirkman tweeted back like, Hector, read the last issue. Like he knows who I am. I've hosted a few panels for him. I've met him now, and it's the craziest thing that it's like
That Robert Kirkman, the
he's Robert
creator
Kirkman of
Invincible.
Walking Dead for a lot of people, but for
No.
me, and Walking Dead's fantastic, but for me, he's the creator of Invincible, and it's my favorite series ever, and it's a series that I grew up with.
Yeah.
So that all these years later, and I met him like first time I met him, I was at a con and just like was walking around and saw him and said how much the comic book meant to me. Super nice guy, and now he's like Robert Kirkman of AMC's The Walking Dead, like millionaire, billionaire, and
knows
he's
your
still
name, knows your business.
the nicest guy, and he loves
cool.
it. You know what I mean? Like it's that thing of like, he knows my business, but
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. So what are we saying then? Are you going to do it? Are we going to do it?
I mean,
what's happening?
That's up to everybody else. So
Yeah,
we're still in the process of reworking our Patreon.
Okay.
But I did add a goal that if we get to a certain amount, we will make the Invincible podcast. Now, we sort of have time before we can do that because that animated series doesn't launch until 2020.
Right.
Sure.
So there's no real pressure to do it tomorrow.
Right.
I would love to, spend time sort of developing what that podcast is going to be, sort of like what the criteria is going to be, what the format's going to be.
I mean, we were talking about it. I feel like the best way to go, and the thing I would be really excited about is just each episode, the three of us talk about one paperback collection of Invincible that we're reading. And we go through the 24 and some change volumes, and it's 1 week. I feel like that's the best way to do it.
Yeah,
because
it's 144 issues.
Correct.
And that equals to about 6 months worth of content. And, if we
go.
start in 6 months and the animated series premieres sometime early next year, then you're kind of just riding the coattails of that whole thing.
That would be great.
And I think that would be fun. And I think it's also a realistic time frame.
And if there's enough support, we could venture into watching the show along with as it's premiering.
Yeah.
And if
be
people
another
really
thing.
dig it, we could even make this not just Invincible, but like later, after, or during other comics podcasts as well, where we just tackle a trade paperback. A movie's coming
I
out,
would
Captain
love that.
Marvel, and it's like we all three are going to read a Captain Marvel comic. Something that maybe the movie draws a lot of inspiration from.
Right.
Aquaman, we're going to read an Aquaman book.
The Trench.
Shazam, we're going to read a Shazam.
The Trench.
The Trench. We're going to read The Trench, Volume 1, The Trench. Boy. So anyway, it could be a
we will
thing.
talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Could be a thing, and I think that would be dope.
Yeah.
In the last year, everything that we do in video format. But I like the idea of taking a lot of stuff and putting it into podcast format or just focusing on podcast. Even though there is a video element to it, like I was spitballing yesterday and today, there are very few people like Hector and I who like love 3D movies. I would love to do a podcast, maybe not just about 3D movies, but movies in other formats, 3D being one of them, maybe something in IMAX. Like I think there's so many movies that you can talk about the benefits of the format, how it enhances the movie and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I would like to do that. I don't know if Hector has the time to do it because he does 15,000 other things.
I'd make the time for 3D.
But I know you
I'd
love
make the
3D.
time.
Of course you would.
For 3D,
Of
I'd
course
make
Dude,
the time.
I had you bring your 3D Blu-rays over so I could be like, yo, let me get a little slice of those.
Go ahead. There you go. There
Before
are
we-
dozens of us. Dozens. Nothing makes me feel better than when I'm online and I'm like 3D, 3D, and some guy's like 3D sucks, and then one other person's like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, oh, thank God, thank God, it's not just cool. One other person like, I have a 3D TV. It's like, oh, thank
it's
you.
Not me.
It's me,
and it's not you.
Usually it's me.
I feel bad because I'm not a big fan, but I have as much 3D experience as you guys. I think I'm just. It's not that I don't like 3D. It's just that I'm bitter from my experience in working in 3D, where I'm just like,
you were so close to it that's why you dislike it.
Exactly. Maybe give me like another year to decompress, and I think I'll be all right.
That's why I got out of there when I did.
I know.
If I had stayed in it even just a little bit, I would have been like, fuck 3D. It's all about 4K.
I'm done with it.
Flat. That's how Christopher Nolan wanted to make his movies. Fuck 3D. You got to put glasses on your face. Fuck them. But because I got out of there, I had enough time.
I just spent a little bit too much time next to the fire, and I got burnt.
You guys know exactly why I quit too. As soon as I got that one promotion, that side promotion, where they're like, Hector, you work here now. This is your team. And I was like, I'm out. You guys,
I gotta go.
You know exactly.
I know exactly
who, what,
and what.
Where, and I went, goodbye. I'll take a pay cut, please. I'm going to take a pay cut and go work somewhere else, and my commute's going to suck. Oh, bye-bye.
Yeah. And then you're on a billboard.
Yeah. And now I like 3D.
Oh, shit,
and now
son.
I like 3D.
And now you like 3D.
I just got Incredibles 2.
The tides have turned.
3D Blu-ray.
I can't wait to watch that.
I know.
It was a good choice. It was a good choice.
I haven't popped it in yet, but I'm excited. And it also comes with Bow in 3D.
Oh, nice.
The little
in
short
3D?
film. Yes.
Nice.
A lot of those ones, like I know the first Wreck-It Ralph comes with Paperman in 3D.
Oh, nice.
Which is cool. A lot of those
Paperman was in 3D.
Dude, that's a great 3D short.
I would like to see that in 3D.
Super interesting. It's super interesting.
Because they really broke ground with the tune shaded stuff in that one.
So it's like, it looks cool. It looks dope in 3D. There's a lot of great shots with all of the paper airplanes, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's good.
Okay.
Before we get into the news, as always, Mis Chonis, aka MeUndies.
Oh, they're still with us.
They're still with us.
I don't think they've heard us.
They still haven't brought down fire on us.
They're not paying attention to us.
We can only hope that.
MeUndies.
I know.
But yeah, if you use the code HyperRPG or MeUndies.com/HyperRPG at checkout, you will get 15% off your first purchase. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, so you can get some nice themed chonies for your SO.
Yeah, I mean,
do it before they realize how we advertise their content.
I'm sure if they knew we were saying Mis Chonis, they would be like, that's cool, guys.
It's a whole nother demographic you're reaching out to, dude.
We are making it relevant to our audience.
We're making everybody feel included. Guys,
we got the Mexican market cornered. We're going to be like branching into Mexico.
We need to like even get them even more niche and get cholo chonis out there. Cholo chonis, like
where
get
just the top button is buttoned.
Just a guy, just a homie, just like
you put your chonis on and you only button the top. Everything else hangs
exactly.
out.
Everything else is just like flapping out, but the pattern on there is also cholos and cholas.
I love it
in their natural state, like chilling, like
the
at
back
a barbecue.
On the butt, it just says Los Doyers.
Los Doyers.
Or it says Orale.
Yes, exactly.
Lucas, how much longer before you think the sponsorship ends?
We're throwing gold out here, Lucas. If they're not taking this, that's not up to me. Like, I'm throwing free ideas out here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to diversify your bonds.
MeUndies, you can have it. Mis Chonis, it's yours.
Take it.
Yours.
The guest designers, come on.
That's right. Wow.
I like that idea. Wow. I like it a lot.
Cholo chonis. That's the next thing.
If the hashtag Cholo Choni starts trending, I'll be very proud of this show.
If not, I'm going to make my own line.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Cholo Chonis, let's talk about this spin-off that's apparently happening.
Wait, did you give the coupon code and everything?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool.
Hyper RPG.
All right, Cholo Chonis.
Cholo Chonis. The Trench. Apparently a spin-off coming from the DC universe. This is... okay, so we've talked about some weird, crazy things on this show before, but a spin-off film about a scene in Aquaman getting its own movies with creepy creatures of the dark underwater. This is kind of intriguing. Mm-hmm. Also, this is kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. The intriguing element is James Wan producing this. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be the director to make this movie. It would be cool if he did, because I feel like he has sort of the most to say about this, because this is the world that he sort of has embraced himself in for the last 2-3 years that he's been making this movie.
And it's horror, which is his MO.
Exactly.
Yes, continue.
So I think that is exciting. That element of it is exciting. But apparently the Aquaman cast is not going to be in this. You won't see Aquaman. You won't see Mera. I don't know if you'll see characters like Ocean Master.
And it's all rumored.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because James Wan went on Twitter.
What did he say?
During the early stages of pre-production, I fell in love with the trenches and its designs, and secretly hoped to explore this world further or more. Now, I'm not confirming or denying this project. Now, this is a tweet that he responded to after a journalist talked about sort of the trench and the idea of the trench and how it sort of fits into
what that sounds like to
James Wan sort of style.
What that sounds like to me is like he's obviously very excited, enthusiastic about this.
Yeah.
It sounds like to me that he wants to let everybody know how he's enthusiastic, why he's enthusiastic, why this would be a viable thing. But it's that thing of like he couldn't, like Warner Brothers hasn't put out an official release, a press release. And so since there's nothing official Warner Brothers happening, James Wan saw an opportunity, I think, to like respond to the discussion, the discourse about this potential project on the internet. And he's like, hey, just so you guys know, this is how I feel about it. I can't say anything, but it seems like he just
make it official.
He wants to make it positive. And the frustrating thing is for me, and we've talked about this before, when like they've announced like rumored projects, a Supergirl spin-off movie through like the Hollywood Reporter or whatever.
Yeah. They've got about 12 right now.
Whatever the projects are, but specifically, I'll use Supergirl as an example. That announcement came out, and when it was from the Hollywood Reporter or Variety or whatever, they drew it up, and they're like, it'll be a prequel, boom, 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 boom. Again, to us comic book fans, you can't just say that because that means a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
You couldn't even put the word crisis in a DC movie-related press release because the word crisis has connotations to it. Comic book history and context.
Plus your history.
So like for them to go, Supergirl is a prequel, that's when my comic book brain went, okay, what does that mean? Because for it to be a prequel, it would mean that she would have to be on Krypton, and therefore it's not Supergirl. Like she can't have powers when you're on Krypton if it's a prequel that happens before she leaves Krypton. Like, and you're only saying it's a prequel because that means you won't have to have an adult actor play Superman, so that Superman will be a baby Kal-El. Yes, they were cousins, but again, if they're cousins, that means they're on Krypton.
Yeah.
No powers, no super in Supergirl. How can this be? Is this like a Krypton?
Not only that, Man of Steel had a comic where they revealed that like Kara was potentially
all these questions. And we've said before, sometimes when that information doesn't come through in a press release, it's because the filmmakers have specific creative reasons. Krypton being an example. Krypton, we were like, why are you going to make the show about the planet before it explodes? They didn't reveal, but we got Adam Strange time traveling in this. The stakes are different. And they didn't do it creatively. So for me, my comic book brain went, that's not going to work. You need to tell me what the thing is. But for whatever many reasons, they're like, well, we can't tell you everything. This is what I get with this, because I was thinking about this on the way over here. The trench. One of my favorite scenes in Aquaman. Everybody agrees, visually stunning, right? Super cool. The creatures are cool. I have the action figure. I'm into it. But for them to go, no Aquaman, no characters from Aquaman, my brain was going, well, Mara would make sense as a spinoff. Hell, Ocean Master would be very interesting. I love Patrick Wilson. But for this to just be the monsters, somebody online said this is the same as how The Conjuring spun off into Annabelle, a scary element from The Conjuring. And I'm thinking that's different because at least with Annabelle spinning off, you understand the context of, okay, that took place before The Conjuring. It's a doll. How was she cursed? There's going to be humans in that story.
Well, not only that, the story of Annabelle is adapted from a doll that people say is actually haunted,
a real urban
which
myth.
Is owned by that couple who is sort of weaving through. They're an actual couple that they're basing everything off of.
Patrick Wilson and the other.
Yes, exactly. They're a famous ghost hunting couple. Whether they're legit or not, that's still up for debate. But they were the ghost hunters of the era, and so they had this room with all these haunted artifacts.
And the Annabelle dolls.
And the Annabelle doll is one of them, and so that's why they took that and brought it around.
So that all makes sense.
That all makes sense.
So it's like you have all this context
for James Wan. That makes sense.
Yes.
But I feel like this has to do with what we were talking about before we saw Aquaman, where we were hoping it was more of a horror movie. James Wan is a horror guy. I bet you that's what he wanted to do in the first place. Like take it into the trenches, make it a horror type movie to begin with. Exactly.
And they went, James,
they were like, but we got to do other stuff, James.
It made $1 billion. Exactly. He walks in there and he's like, yo,
guys, give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
Back to my pitch, because I want to pitch this to you guys. I'm going to let you, because this is what I was thinking on the way here. The only way this could work for me is on top of a movie that James Wan, it's a passion project that he gets to do his horror stuff.
Yeah.
Again, just story-wise, I'm like, those characters cannot be main characters in a narrative.
No.
They're piranha monster creatures.
They're bottom feeders. They hide in the shadows.
They're barely telepathic.
Yeah.
You know, they're like a hive mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a movie. That's like a threat.
Right.
You have to have other characters in this movie.
Right.
So they're saying no Aquaman characters. The only way this could work for me, if this also works as a spin-off to the Aquaman cinematic universe, if you will, for a second, right? Other characters underwater, other characters from other kingdoms, and you make the main character Tula, who is Ocean Master Orm's sister. And maybe she is in another kingdom, she's trapped, whatever, but the story is that Tula, maybe some other Atlantean characters we haven't met yet, have to deal or get through or escape from the trench. And at the end of that movie, it could be a thing of like, wow, we, or maybe only I, made it. I can't believe it. And then in the next, an Aquaman 2, they're in it. The only way that could work for me is if there is some other connection,
right?
Even if we didn't see this character in Aquaman, but there's a connection to that world and that cast of characters.
Right.
And what's frustrating is in this rumored pitch, there's no notice of like, there's no rumors of, and the movie will star so-and-so's relative in this way, or so-and-so character that we haven't met yet that is like a comic book character related to Atlantis or the kingdoms of Atlantis. That's how this thing works for me. And I feel like the frustrating thing is, again, they cannot reveal all their creative cards.
Sure.
Right. But there's probably been a lot of talks about it that we don't know about.
Because other than that, it does not make sense to me.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
it
the only other thing that I could think of is if you do decide to make part of the movie set before the events of Aquaman, so you explain how the creatures of the trench came to be.
Because there were like Atlantean people that were like cursed or deformed or mutated.
Which we get a little bit of that in Aquaman, but maybe you could follow a particular character from that kingdom who then falls and becomes a creature of the trench, and then maybe find a way of interweaving the story of Atlanta and how she sort of gets more or less just kind of left in the trench and how she has to survive that. So I think you can I think there are elements that you could tie together from the movie where you could involve Atlanta. You could also maybe follow a particular Atlantean who ends up becoming a creature of the trench and like what that does to those former people, turning them into creatures mentally, physically, what that does to them. Can that be a whole 2-hour movie? I don't know.
Yeah.
The only other thing that kind of gives me some potential hope for it being a very much character focus is the fact that they said it's going to be a very modestly budget movie. So like, we're not going to have a $200 million trench movie. It'll be like
you're not going to have
$40
that
to
shot.
$60 million trench movie.
Yeah.
So
you know what I worry and I hope isn't the case is with that modest budget that they're like, yeah, it'll just be like humans on the surface, like a couple of humans have to deal with these creatures. Like they get, how they got up on that one boat when Aquaman and Mera swam out in that section. Like I hope it's not just like rando people, randos.
Well, but that's the thing though. So we've never had a true superhero horror movie like we were going to get with New Mutants, and then who knows what's going to happen with that one.
Maybe is the closest
right,
Blade,
but still,
Hellboy,
okay. But if you think about what makes a movie scary, what makes a movie scary, you being able to relate to the person who's being chased, who's being like, if you have
no superhero,
exactly a superhero, you're like, well, he's got superpowers. I know he's going to make it out of this. What makes a horror movie scary is the uncertainty of it all and the fact that you can relate with the weakness of this person who's being chased by this supernatural thing, whether it be Jason or whether it be Mike Myers or anybody like that. You don't want that person to die.
But would that work? Would a horror movie work in a universe where you know that superhuman characters exist? Where you know that Aquaman exists and he lives down there?
Exactly.
It's like, would that work if humans sail out into a thing, get attacked by piranha monsters? Would an audience just sit there and go, well, when's Aquaman going to save them?
So that's the problem.
They had the DC logo at the beginning of this. I know what this is.
So that's the problem you run into. So if you set it in Aquaman's world, you're half expecting Aquaman to come in and save the day, which takes all the tension away from the movie already. And if you set it and say DC, no Aquaman's going to be here, everybody's going to be disappointed, right? And so I feel like New Mutants and that whole thing was going in a good direction because they were being haunted by a demon bear. So the thing was like an ancient Native American spirit that overpowered all of the New Mutants. So it got in their head. It was kind of like a Freddy Krueger situation. Like they would dream, they would die in their dreams, and it would be kind of like that. And so I feel like that lends itself a lot better to a horror movie, because it gets in your head. It's not like a physical power that you have to overcome. Whereas the trench is very much like creepy crawlies and like the bottom of the ocean, darkness, pressure,
fish zombies.
Yeah, just basically fish zombies. So it's hard for me to imagine where this movie's going to go, unless it's sort of like what you guys were saying earlier, where it's sort of like maybe an origin story of how they became,
or a secret spin-off, but we don't know that yet.
We don't know. Like, we don't have enough information to make that call yet.
It's literally just, hey, this is potentially going to be made.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you know.
I love James Wan's enthusiasm about it. But the same way that I am cautiously optimistic, trepidatious about the Joker thing, whether it's a good story or not, it sounds stupid, but I'm like, but why invest the time and the money to do this thing if it's not going to sort of build on what you've already invested the time and the money with this Aquaman world? Those characters are very cool.
Yeah.
Super interesting. I want more of them. I want to, now you have an opportunity to flesh out the mythology of this world. And whether it's before or after the events of Aquaman or any of that confusing stuff, whatever that is, why do a movie that is just like, and these humans in a boat have to survive the trench creatures?
But Jason Momoa won't be there.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's not. Anyway, Aquaman 2 is, you know what I mean? Like
where's it going?
Like
where's it going?
Because like I can understand the spin-off appeal of Hobbs and Shaw.
Sure.
It's pretty obvious. It's The Rock, Jason Statham, and then they got Idris Elba in it. I'm like, got it. Like that doesn't have to tie into the ongoing saga that is the Fast and Furious movies. They're 8 movies deep. But Aquaman's just starting out.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like we haven't gotten Aquaman 2 yet.
Yeah.
So
I would love a story if they announced like, hey, we're going to do a movie about Ocean Master that takes place prior to the events of Arthur coming back to Atlantis.
Right.
Sure.
Like that could be cool to see the rise and fall of that character.
I agree.
Patrick Wilson is
and
awesome.
I just want a thing to basically do more service to the greater DC universe.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the way that Aquaman the movie did, more so than just this one little corner pocket, dark, scary thing of the DC universe. I'm like that's a missed opportunity to use more Atlantean characters. There's a whole crew down there. There's a whole crew that we didn't get to because it was just Aquaman, Mera, Willem Dafoe, and Ocean Master.
Yeah.
Like there's
Dolph
also
Lundgren.
there's also like a whole like royal regard and all these people that are like trying to take out Arthur from his we
got like little glimpses at the other kingdoms, but we never really got to fully spend enough time with any of those characters.
So
and that could be cool if it's a movie that kind of explores the characters of the trench, but also touches upon other characters who fell from Atlantis and became all these other creatures. Yeah, I think there's like opportunity to do something fun and interesting.
Put a crab
that's
guy
expansive.
in there, something.
I think there's a way to expand that universe to make it a little bit more interesting, other than just telling a scary story.
Right.
So that's sort of like my opinion about the movie side of it.
Yeah.
If they were to announce it, like, you know what, we thought about it, we are going to be bringing the trench. A brand new DC Universe original story set in the DC film universe on the streaming service.
Right.
That I'm like, that's awesome.
Go for it. Yeah. I just, to me, there's other corners of the DC movie universe that I think would lend itself to horror. Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Give us a new Swamp Thing movie. And James Wan's doing that as a show,
Which
so
I'm
it's
like,
just like,
flip that.
Yeah. It's
do that as a movie and that as a show.
Exactly. Like do the bigger sort of the bigger thing as the bigger thing, and then do the smaller thing as the smaller thing.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I just need more information, man. This is just weird.
I think that's it, because we don't know where this is going.
Exactly.
It's really hard to.
It's kind of
predict it.
It's just like going. Here's a crumb. What is it? What is it? What is the crumb? What's the crumb? Where's it from?
And it's also a little bit of a twist of the knife to Superman fans, for them to know like there's no plans right now for like Superman, the biggest character of the DC universe, but it's like, but we're gonna do this thing about the trench creatures. Like that's gonna be a movie.
In my chest.
You shouldn't have said that, because Adam's mom just posted an amazing picture of Adam as a kid dressed as Superman, which was amazing.
And my cousin is Supergirl.
Is that your cousin? Oh, okay. I wondered who that was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Is she a big superhero fan?
I mean, she was when she was like 4.
Oh, okay.
She's still into it.
She's too cool now. I get it.
We went we went and we saw Infinity War together, and she loved it.
Cool.
Mostly because she's in love with Chris Evans. Who isn't?
As we all are.
As we all are.
I love that.
Have you seen just little gifs of Chris Evans like with his family? Oh no, wait, no, I'm thinking.
Chris
Hemsworth? Are you thinking
Hemsworth?
Yeah, I'm thinking Hemsworth.
Yeah.
There's too many
There's
Chris's.
so many Chris's. My God.
Too many Chris's.
I think I know which ones you're talking about. They're
but
adorable.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
like jumping rope with his
Yeah,
family and acting all
yeah.
goofy. I'm like,
They're always
that's
getting
cool.
fit. They're always
That's
getting
cool.
fit.
I
The only way
fucking
Hemsworth
Chris's.
can spend time with his family is he's like, we're going to have to work out right now.
Apparently, he doesn't really work out though.
I think he does.
Well,
I
he
think
just
works out a lot.
launched. This is so off
Yeah,
topic, but
I
he
know.
just launched a brand new like workout app or something.
What?
Where you can like sign up
Yes,
for it, and it's
dude.
like him, his wife, and then like a few
I
other
was
training
very
friends.
tempted to like check it
I'm
out.
gonna try it.
because,
I'm gonna try
because
it.
it's very
All
cliche.
right,
It's
so
very
we'll lift this weight here.
It's very cliched, very cheesy, very like I don't want to say pretentious, but very much like wellness is about fitness, is about being
Yeah.
true to yourself. It's like a commercial, right?
Yeah,
and I'm
of
watching and I'm
course.
like, no, brother. But the fact that it's Hemsworth and I'm looking at him and I'm like, look at those arms though. man. Look at those
guys. I got a
It's like-
wedding coming up in 9 months. Like I need to get fit. So
All right. Dude, yeah,
I'm
just
doing
get,
this.
Just
do
get
it.
jacked
I'm
like
doing this.
Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna look like
All
Hemsworth.
right, mate, we're
Yeah.
just gonna work out your arms right here.
Yeah.
You're gonna get
Like,
these weird muscles.
This is my progress
It's-
pictures, guys. Take pictures because 9 months. I'm
I
gonna
think
look
my
that
favorite.
jacked.
I think my favorite story is Tom Hiddleston talking about Hemsworth and Chris Evans when they're at like a club. It's
Yeah.
like a wrap up
Yeah.
party, and he's talking about. He's like, everyone's dancing, and then I look over and I see Evans and Hemsworth, and they're just standing off to the side, and Evans is like, "But how do you get this muscle right here?"
Yeah.
He's, I don't know, mate.
That's
You gotta work out.
that's how I
man.
know Hemsworth does work out a lot because all of his movie roles have kind of required it, demanded it.
Yeah.
He seems like he was a really fit dude even before Thor.
Yeah, probably.
But he got big for Thor.
Yeah.
And I think that when you do something enough, you're going to become an expert at it. You're going to become passionate about it.
Yeah.
He spent so much time of his life doing that
Right.
like the end result is like he's like, well, I think I can do like a company about this, and I think
Right,
I can
right,
like
right.
find a way to make money off of this, and also
Yeah.
like like turn
Can you
like
imagine if The
hire
Rock did
people.
it?
He's gonna get my money.
Oh my god!
Him and The Rock like join forces for something like that.
Apparently, The Rock has a very exclusive gym that he travels with.
Yeah.
So he has this
Iron
giant trailer.
Paradise?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
That nobody else but him works out in.
Yeah.
And apparently, it's a very big privilege if he invites you in. But apparently, like only 2 or 3 people have ever been invited in.
What? Who's been invited in?
I think
Kevin
it was one of
Hart?
the
I think Hemsworth,
I think it
yeah.
was Hemsworth. Yeah, I think it was
Whoa.
Hemsworth. And,
Kevin Hart had to have been invited in. Come on, they get
maybe,
they get along like
but I don't think he
gangbusters.
talks about it very much.
Wow.
But apparently, it's got machines that nobody
That
else
you
ever
just look
yeah,
at and it's
exactly.
like,
Just muscles build on you. You just standing there. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
these are the machines that don't release to the public. These are the ones that actually work.
Ones that actually get you strong.
Cool.
But speaking of, we're gonna
Speaking
jump
of
into this
Avengers,
a little bit, right?
So we're gonna do a little bit of like a, I don't know, like a roundup of recent Avengers Endgame developments. So the first thing we're gonna do, because everyone has been asking, we are going to watch the big game TV spot from the Super Bowl.
Say Super Bowl.
For Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
We're gonna get censored. You can't say those words.
No, can't say
Oh,
Super
that's
Bowl.
right.
You got to say the big game.
big game.
Or
Big
the
game.
superb owl. Have you guys don't know about that?
No.
There's a big, huge thing
Yeah.
Oh,
where
God.
people are so mad that they can't say Super Bowl that they're saying, I said it again, that they're saying superb owl.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's
They
called
put
the
the space.
SB, the big
The
SB.
SB, the big game, the superb
Anyway,
owl. Okay,
here
so
we
let's
go.
watch this.
That's great. I love this spot. It's so good.
Some people
Here's my favorite part.
move on.
He is he's angry, he's anxious.
That tongue acting, dude.
Yeah.
That tongue acting. Not us.
Not us.
Not us. It's great. It's a great spot. I love the momentum of it.
So this spot, because I didn't see it during the game, I saw it afterwards. It actually made me anxious at the
Yeah.
beginning when I first saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, "Fuck, man, this shit's getting real. Like it's getting really real."
Yep.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just like Cap's acting there really makes you feel the anxiousness of he feels helpless.
Yeah.
And what is he gonna do? Like, I have a feeling that we're gonna see Cap basically at his lowest point ever, probably doing some
Yeah.
shit that we don't expect Cap to do.
I read a couple articles and you know it's all speculation, but one of them did bring up a good point of like Captain America is a soldier of war.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Steve Rogers undergo some sort of PTSD because of everything that's happened?
Absolutely.
Maybe.
That's what that was.
The amount of people that he's lost and lost repeatedly, like especially Bucky, his best friend, who he's
and
lost
having
twice
felt
now.
the responsibility, he had the glove in his hand, like he was holding the gauntlet. I bet you inside of him he was like, I want to rip it off this dude's hand right now.
Well,
but he couldn't.
There's so many good things happening, and you guys cannot forget the name of this franchise. And it all started with the Avengers.
Yeah.
You have to avenge something. And I think that they're going to.
Is this the ultimate avenging?
I think that this original 6 are going to avenge half of the universe that was lost. I think that they will. They're gonna. God, I want that moment from the Infinity Gauntlet where it's just Steve Rogers and Thanos, and just that stare down that didn't really quite happen. That happened in Infinity War where he was pressing the glove and he was flexing it, and Thanos was like, "Oh shit, look at this guy!" Like that kind of a move. But I want that move of like that little speech, rewritten to be awesome, where it's like somebody's always gonna stare you down, Thanos. Like you've got nothing on us, and you will lose.
Yeah.
And then he just.
Well, and I think the thing that excites me also about Endgame is the fact that they said that the characters who didn't really have, not necessarily didn't have their moments, but were not as focused upon in Infinity War, are going to be the main characters in
this
the
is
next
going to be Cap's last movie, dude.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be Cap's last movie, but we're going to see some cool shit coming from Hulk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I think so.
Yes.
So
We're
like
gonna see some real
and
cool
Hawkeye
Hulk
and Widow,
moments.
which is going to be cool.
I think some like big takeaways. The shot of Thor. Is he on Thanos' farm? It kind of looks like
I think he's on Thanos' planet at least.
Yeah, because I mean, I think they purposely blur out the shot,
Absolutely.
to have us do this where we speculate.
Yeah.
We're talking about
I think the time jump. I think there's potential for a time jump because we see in the trailer there's scenes with Black Widow where she has the shorter hair like in Infinity War, and then she's walking down the shooting range and she's got long hair.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay, so this time jump could potentially happen like in the middle of the movie. Somewhere.
Yeah, man. I just really, really hope to that this movie comes out and completely upends any expectations that cynical audiences had when they saw Infinity War. When it ended and they were like, there's no stakes, they're just gonna undo it. Like, I hope that this movie's like, no, motherfucker, there's stakes. This is what they have to deal with now. And that it affects the audiences emotionally, affects us emotionally, and then people that are like, oh wow, shit, I thought they were just gonna undo it. Like, no, okay,
everybody's back,
it's the story. Okay,
I
I'm
mean, it
into
is the comic book trope.
Yeah.
Nobody ever really dies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very easy for them to do that. But I think what I like about that these movies are doing is that these actors are physically not going to be able to do these roles forever.
I know.
Yeah.
You have to be creative in how you write these people out.
Yes.
And this is going to be one of those moments. This whole however many years we've been watching these movies has been building up to this moment to where Marvel is going to write basically the first big blueprint of how to do superhero movies correctly. Because I have a feeling that they're not going to drop this ball on this next movie because they hit us with such.
Well, they can't.
They can't. I mean, really, they can't.
If you go from Infinity War and then you make a subpar fourth film,
Exactly.
Oof.
I mean, how terrible is that going to look? But also the fact that they Lord of the Rings did, where they just shot these movies back to back. Like, these movies had a momentum going. They needed to get all this stuff done and have everybody in the same frame of thought so that they can make these movies feel cohesive, you know, because if you shoot them a year or two afterwards, it's going to look completely different. Everybody's going to be in a different mindset. So I feel like this movie, there's going to be major sacrifices made, and there's going to be things that make you feel like everything was worth it, even though it might not be how you wanted it to be worth it. You know?
Well, especially two movies on such gigantic scale. Like when they announced that Peyton Reed was coming to do Ant-Man approximately like 13 months before it was supposed to come out, you see the movie and you're like, okay, I can see how that's manageable. But you see Infinity War and you're like, wow, Endgame, to turn a movie like that around in 12 months, especially because like they kind of stopped working on Endgame to finish Infinity War and then went back to it. You're like, God damn, how do you turn that around in 12 months? Because like and it's been talked about in a lot of interviews with the Russo brothers, like the edit. They had an edit that was 3 hours. They shifted things around. They still have a 3-hour edit.
Yeah.
Like we could end up with a 3-hour Avengers movie.
There was an article that came out today that test screenings have been super positive with this 3-hour cut.
Yeah.
So we're getting another 3-hour movie. Basically.
I'm into it. There's been rumors about them maybe doing like an intermission and stuff. Like, look,
I don't want an intermission.
I will say this. Some of my favorite movies, when they go full on, like cinematic epic, like your Ben-Hur's and all those movies, to have just like the movie start with a huge overture with Alan Silvestri and then cut to Luis recapping the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe
I
and then going
that.
into the movie and then your intermission is Captain America coming in. So you made it this far. And like
that
just
would be pretty
really,
great.
just
That would
really
be
just like
fun.
owning that 3.5 hours. Like I would be kind of
well,
okay
if
with
they
it.
did that, then
If it's like very theatrical as like the finale
the
of
way
this.
I'm thinking is just like Titanic, where it just fades to black and the lights turn on. You're just like, that. Okay, this is a really good way to kill
I think
the mood.
you really like if Marvel and look, the likelihood of them doing it is.
Did
slim to
Titanic
none.
have an intermission? No.
I don't know if it had an intermission. I only remember Titanic from the VHSs.
Yeah.
The VHSs
That
just
shit had an
faded to
intermission because they couldn't fit it on one.
Exactly, because it was 2 tapes, so you physically had to take a
but
break.
movies like How the West Was Won, 2001,
Right.
even The Hateful Eight, they had the whole the Road Show.
Yeah.
Or not, Hateful Eight.
It would be cool if they did that Cap coming in and like talking to the screen, and then
Your bladder's full. Maybe this is a good time to refill your popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. He's just kind of waiting around. He's like, I'm just gonna wait here for 15 minutes, and he legit just waits for 15 minutes.
I would sit there the whole time.
And he's like looking at the audience. He's like, maybe you should get some popcorn.
Yeah.
I would
Maybe
love
you should
that.
go to the bathroom.
Are we all here?
I would love that if that existed, if Marvel put that together in a double feature of Infinity War and Endgame, and in the middle
in between
it was
the
that,
movies.
because they did that with Toy Story 1 and 2. They re-released them before Toy Story 3 came out in 2009 or 10, before 3 came out,
Right.
and they put a little intermission in the middle that had like little games. It was like a 15-minute thing where like the characters come out like, well, howdy, and then they like did a little thing for the kids. If the MCU, if Marvel Studios did that, I would be into it. But I do want Endgame to just be, if the Fellowship of the Ring can be 3 hours,
Right.
and everyone's like, this is classy, this is a classy way to do it, then it deserves the same thing. And I know a lot of people
I agree.
I know a lot of people are like, it takes, if you can't tell your story in 2.5 hours, like I'm bringing my kids, it's a lot, and it's if you can't
but if you're
tell
invested,
Don't bring your kids. Don't bring your kids. Damn it. Leave your kids at home.
Again, I just go back to Lord of the Rings. If Lord of the Rings is allowed to and embraced by audiences to make a 3-hour cut for each of these films, and I love Lord of the Rings, and it's like, could you argue that each one of those movies could take 30 minutes off by moving stuff around and trimming things up? Yeah, probably, especially Return of the King. My God, those endings. We are all in agreement of that. But those movies are
not
great.
in agreement of
you
that,
see,
Hector.
see that passion that you have? See that passion? I'm
Don't
going,
you
look,
speak
man,
those words at this table.
This may or may not be the last time Chris Evans is Captain America.
Probably.
Right? Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Scarlett Johansson, well, she's getting her own movie, thankfully, but like Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye, for sure. Might be the last Mark Ruffalo Hulk. We don't know. And like you were saying earlier, Augustine, like this is brand new territory. These actors cannot play these characters forever. And I really, truly believe that the MCU and that Marvel Studios understands this. They're bringing in new characters and younger characters. And I think that the Marvel universe is, and now with we'll get to it too, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men potentially joining this.
Yeah.
I think there's no reason to ever recast any of these characters. Any of these 6. No reason to recast them. If Ruffalo's like, I can't do it, guys, then there's no more Hulk. Do you know what I mean? If you want a Hulk movie, guess what? She-Hulk, Red Hulk, Abomination,
There's tons of
Amadeus
other people
Cho
who
Hulk.
can do
There's
it,
so many other characters to carry on the legacies of these roles. In the same way that, to me, the DC universe that's what that's about. The DC is more about legacy than Marvel. DC is about a new Flash, a new Green Lantern, right? Superboy, Supergirl, Batgirl, Batwoman, Steel, the families of these characters,
Batwing.
so on and so forth. Aqualad, fucking everybody has these legacy characters that we haven't yet to really get in movies. A little bit of Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Dark Knight Rises, but he's not getting another movie. Like, we have yet to get that feeling. And I think that Marvel could be the first to get there, where it's like, oh, now there is a not only Captain Marvel, but like Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. Now we did introduce Ironheart, Riri Williams. We did introduce, Amadeus Cho. And then like 2 movies from now, he's going to be the Hulk. He's going to be the totally awesome Hulk. Right. And that's it. And instead of continuing to say like Tony Stark is just always 40, in whatever year it is, and like keep it going, a new actor comes in to play Tony Stark, it would do a disservice to what they've done so far.
I really don't think that's the direction that this universe is headed in.
I agree.
It would be so limiting.
Yeah.
It would just be a really bad choice when you have not only a plethora of characters to choose from, but you're also wanting to take this as far as it will go.
Exactly.
Like this, focusing on this is going to be like I hate to say it, but focusing on the Skywalkers for the past 40, 50 years. So it's just kind of like it cuts off all creativity. So I really don't think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think if this is the last of these main 6 being the main 6, give me a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if you want to do a fun intermission, which I'm into, do it in a double feature.
That'd be fun.
Where you get to show up.
That'd be
That
fun.
would be cool. That would be
So we also got a first look at some of their new suits. Apparently, this is the Iron Man Mark 85 armor, which has been, which was rumored, and there was like
Iron Man issue 85 was the first appearance of it. I don't know.
Some concept artwork that was leaked online that showed him. I think my favorite out of these suits, I'm very intrigued by the Hulk suit.
Yeah.
Actually having a suit, and a lot of people have been talking about how this Hulk looks a lot more like Mark Ruffalo, even more so than he did in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know if that maybe is a commentary on the state that the Hulk will be in, if he's going to be more of Bruce Banner and how that physically changes his appearance.
So there is
Professor Hulk.
I might be wrong, but there is a version of the Hulk where he's more of a Bruce. Isn't he like Dr. Hulk or something
Professor
like that?
Hulk,
Professor Hulk,
Professor
right?
Hulk, yeah.
And so he is like a nice blend, so he can talk like he's in tune
Almost
with
like a
Bruce at the
beast
same time.
kind of
Exactly.
character, yeah.
So like both personalities are coming through at the same time, which is why I think they're making his face look a lot more like Mark's, because Mark is going to come through more in this. Have you seen any of the toys that they're coming out with? So
I have not, but I did read something interesting where the Russo brothers were saying don't always believe what the toys say and do.
Oh,
So
interesting.
That's tough.
Because
but I know
came
they had
out-
like Valkyrie and all. And all kinds of other
and not
stuff.
only that, but they came out with a series of toys that all had spacesuits. So
Yes.
so Rocket had a spacesuit,
Yeah.
Thor had a spacesuit,
yeah.
everybody had a spacesuit. So I'm hoping that maybe that's what Hulk has
That's what that
on
is.
right there.
Yeah.
They're gonna take this. They're gonna take this bitch cosmic.
Yeah. Well, and so I was also rewatching Avengers Infinity War. And you know how we talked about, why does Hulk never come out in the movie? We talked about before we like really knew the reason why. We speculated like, it could be because he feels ashamed because he was defeated by Thanos. And it was interesting to hear the Russo brothers actually say like, no, he's just kind of over being the guy who has to sort of like always solve Bruce Banner's problems.
Right.
Sort of being like the front facing thing that always has to deal with this stuff.
He's sort of throwing a tantrum.
A little bit. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I think like the way the movie sort of describes it more of is, it seems like it's some sort of like pride and ego thing and a shame thing, especially coming off of Ragnarok, where he's like the greatest warrior
I could see that.
on Sakaar, and now
that.
Thor comes in and kicks his ass, and you're like, oh, what does that do to your ego?
I never
does that leave
got
Hulk?
that. I always felt like it was a conflict of Hulk. I don't know what the conflict exactly was, but to me, it always came off like Hulk was holding back out of sort of like a tantrum. He's just saying like no, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm not going to be that. I didn't know exactly why.
You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me, because Mark Ruffalo says, oh, me and you got some stuff to work out.
Exactly. Because
he talks to him like a parent.
Yeah. He talks to him like a condescending parent.
Yeah. So I think that adds to this of like, maybe there is going to be a lot more of like playing with the duality of the character.
That would be great.
And how two bodies basically occupy, or two entities occupy one space.
This is the vibe I get. This is Indestructible Hulk.
Indestructible Hulk.
A great series written by Mark Waid, a couple different artists. This is art by Walt Simonson, a classic Thor artist. But in this, he puts on a suit that is, I don't exactly remember what it does. Like, it does have a function, but the whole point of this series is that Bruce Banner becomes an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. funds his research, and Banner agrees to become, like, employed by S.H.I.E.L.D. The only caveat is they're funding all of his stuff, no limit to, he gets a team of scientists, and he's trying to solve, as Bruce Banner, actual problems of the world, and he's trying to fix them. Only caveat is S.H.I.E.L.D., whenever they need the Hulk, they're like, okay, you need to bring out the Hulk. We're going to fire you like a gun over here. Yeah. And then the Hulk does his thing. So that was Indestructible Hulk.
So the suit plays a part of that, right? For those people who can't see.
What he does, he's wearing like some kind of a suit, and then he kind of has like little booty shorts, and then there's these little drones that I think Banner designed to sort of track the Hulk, to just make him good at being the Hulk. Help him be the Hulk in a way that doesn't hurt innocent people.
To focus the Hulk.
To kind of focus, to got to aim him like a gun and kind of fire him from there. So I don't know if that's what we're going to see, but those are the vibes it gives me of like, and that's always what I wanted to see as a solo Hulk movie is that plot where it's like he gets hired
what
by
I
S.H.I.E.L.D.
want to see is the round 2 of the boxing match where Hulk got his ass kicked in the first by Thanos.
Man.
I really want to
come back with a fury and vengeance, I imagine.
Well, I have a feeling he's going to come back rough, but I have a feeling, well, not a feeling, but I'm hoping that we kind of see the gamma radiation kind of make a resurgence, because when Hulk gets really powerful, he puts off blasts of gamma radiation, this bright green radiation. Seeing some punches with like gamma radiation coming out of it, come on, man.
I kind of
dope would that be?
I would love it if the next movie also, hopefully when he came back, built up Drax to remind everybody, like, Drax wants to kill Thanos. Yeah. Drax blames Thanos. That's a comic book thing.
Yeah.
He shifted his focus from Ronan the Accuser to Thanos at the end of the first Guardians movie, and then that's why he was going after him in Infinity War and got taken out. But
they really played that down, though, because in the comics it's a really big
Well, even
thing.
in Guardians 1, like, that's all he talks about.
Yeah.
And it was to Ronan instead of Thanos, because Thanos wasn't the villain of that movie, so we needed that thrust. But like, if Drax is the one to take out Thanos, like in the end with his knives, like to finally give vengeance to his wife and daughter, I'd be like, that's pretty great. But they'd have to really kind of like remind us and like bring it build it up.
I have a feeling that they haven't spent enough time with that to give Drax that moment.
And if the Guardians were such a big part of Infinity War, like how big of a part are they going to be in this next movie?
Because 90% of them got taken out.
Correct. But just that finishing
Rocket
move.
and Nebula. That's it.
I mean, and she's not really a Guardian. She's kind of just hanging out.
Yeah, she's kind of off to the side, like maybe with her own motives. Who knows?
Yeah.
Boy.
The other article that I found that was really interesting was from the Hollywood Reporter talking about, where can Marvel go from here? What's next?
This was interesting.
This was somewhat of a hypothetical, but I also, because at this point in time, it's not possible to do what they're saying in this article because the movie comes out in 4 months, 3 months.
Unless the movie's already doing it. I kind of perused this article and I agree with what they're saying, but I also was like, I don't think it would work the same way. I think that to sum up, they're basically saying a big comic book from Marvel or whoever, a big event like the end of Civil War would end with like, okay, now Tony Stark is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
And then Spider-Man put back his black costume back on because he's underground, and the Avengers are living underground, and Luke Cage is back, and, and this and this and this, and then that's the end of that issue, and a lot of it would lead into literally new comic book series like Secret Avengers and, Iron Man, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like they would kind of spin off or just, naturally lead into
their own stories.
The series, their own stories. And this article was saying like a movie should do that. If we don't get enough time with Drax, for example, give Drax a series on Disney Plus where it's like, and then here's what Drax was doing during or after Avengers Endgame. Boom, 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 4 episodes, whatever. And I kind of agree with that. And I feel like what they were saying was like, this is how it should work. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what like Daredevil and Luke Cage kind of were.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Because they're spinning off of like, they're at least acknowledging and giving a reason to, okay, the Battle of New York and the Avengers 1 led to now Kingpin can come up, which is I thought was really smart. Kingpin can, or like Avengers literally led into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That first season was kind of rough, but now everybody really digs it and it's like awesomer. Right. So I'm like, in theory, that works. But just like the comic books, sometimes it doesn't always work as a standalone. Like you have to still look at it as like the Civil War issues 1 through 7 work on its own.
Yeah.
Some people say yes, some people say no. But that the whole point is you're supposed to look at it and not go, well, there's all these other tie-in issues.
Now I have to read all these thousands of other issues.
And those other thousands of issues, would that thing work? Would Iron Man, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. work on its own if somebody hands that paper back to you and you open it and you're like, Iron Man won Civil War and now he's and it's like, okay, does that story work on its own or do you need the thing before it? And that really boils down to the whole argument of all of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's superhero storytelling, right? Does any of this stuff have stakes if it just leads to the next thing?
Right.
Does it, so part of me is like, I get it. And the other part of me is like, I feel like they're kind of already doing that.
Plus they're doing a Loki and a Scarlet Witch.
We don't know
show.
how connected those are going to be.
Yeah.
Like the Falcon
anywhere.
and Winter Soldier might literally be, and then after the events of Avengers Endgame, one of them gets the shield and here's the show. Like we don't know what it's going to be. So I was kind of like, but also it just kind of felt, some of it felt like no brainer to me. And the other of it felt like, I don't know if they could logistically do that.
Yeah, plus I think like, obviously the pros of it are things like that we're talking about, like the events between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. What character stories could you tell? if there is a time jump, do you tell the stories of Steve Rogers and what he was doing? Do you tell the stories of Natasha Romanoff? You know, I don't know, Captain Marvel, like what she was doing. Does that really add to the movie? Or is it just sort of extra material that people now feel obligated that they have to
Listen,
watch?
I love extra material. All Hail the King, the one shot from at
But
the
those
end
are like
of Iron Man
5-minute
3.
shorts. They're
Yeah, well,
easy to...
To be fair, All Hail the King is like 13 minutes. It's like the longest
Sure.
one. But you're right. The one shots were little 5-minute shits, right?
Yeah.
Funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer, and it's just
Right,
Coulson
right.
in a gas station. I loved it.
Yeah.
Not
They're fun.
necessary for Iron Man 2
Exactly.
or for Thor.
It's
but
just
it's
there.
the in-between. So... Yeah, I would dig it, but and if that stuff's on Disney Plus, like I'm already gonna get it, so I'll watch it. But it's not.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things of like, how do you sustain that for a season's worth? You know, if it's like 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, like what story are you telling that's interesting enough that I care?
And the way I see it, I personally don't see this as the next phase of it because something tells me that maybe something happened to where the plan for Netflix Daredevil and all these characters was the plan.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that from the very beginning. We were like, holy shit, this is going to connect.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was a conversation that they had before as well. They're like, well, we can have Daredevil connect with this. We can have they even talk about the events and the Avengers in some of those shows, which is cool. They never connected the dots. Something tells me that it's going to be...
It fell apart somewhere.
Exactly. Something tells me that it fell apart in the boardrooms, in the deal making and all that stuff, that they weren't able to do it. So I don't feel like this is going to be something that they want to re-explore. Because I get it. Like the comic book stuff, the tie-in stuff is great, but to me as a comic book reader, always just felt like tedious. Like I was just doing homework and research at that point, you know, because I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm going to read this, but only to see if I miss something, not necessarily because I enjoy this story.
Yeah.
It's just, I want to know if there are any nuggets in there that I should know just for my geeky ass brain to be like, well, you know, the reason why Steve Rogers didn't do that is because he did this back then.
Inside issue number 4.
Right, exactly. So it's I don't know. To me, it kind of changes the dynamic in not a positive way. I feel like it's just going to be a bunch of superfluous stuff just so that they can make more superhero content, and that's not necessarily
and to entice people to buy their
exactly. And
you're right,
that's
because
not
they can't
necessarily.
It's a balance because they can't come out and be like, this stuff's essential. Because then you're going to piss people off, and they're going to be turned off when when they're like, well, what's happening in this Justice League movie? I don't get it. Well, you need to watch Batman versus Superman, and you need to watch Man of Steel. That already is a problem in the MCU that they try really hard to avoid. And frankly, Infinity War has been the toughest one. I feel like Infinity War, out of all of them, does not work as its own thing.
Yeah.
That's why I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to people who just jump into that. They're like, I saw Iron Man 10 years ago. Yeah, I'll go check this out. Like, does the movie work for you? Are you intrigued? Do you reverse engineer and branch from there and go, well, I like that Raccoon and the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll watch those movies now.
Right.
I don't know, because I can't ever...
You can't unknow things.
I can't ever unknow, like I can't ever peek into that dimension. I'm the one, I'm the guy that's seen all of the stuff.
Right.
But you're right, Augie, they can't make it essential. They can't be like, and if you don't watch Vision and the Scarlet Witch, you're not going to know what's happening in Spider-Man Far From Home. Because people will be like, I'm not going to fucking go watch the Spider-Man movie.
Exactly. So all this stuff is basically going to be a huge risk for them, which I almost guarantee you they're not going to take. Nobody's going to take that kind of risk so that maybe they catch a couple more viewers in the theaters.
And I think if they're doing Loki, Scarlet Witch and the Vision, and Bucky and Sam Wilson, then it's going to be some sort of like
one-off,
disconnected. Like it'll obviously tie into whatever stories have already happened, but it's not going to be something like, if you don't watch this, you're going to miss it.
They're good at that.
Yeah.
They're good at bringing people up to speed when you go watch Thor Ragnarok. And then you have to understand, okay, everybody thinks Loki's dead, and we're going to do it in a funny way, but here's the info you need if you didn't see Thor: The Dark World. They're good at doing that. I still think that these things will be it's effectively like the Marvel one-shots.
Yeah.
Those are really fun and cool, and they're extra, and it's fun to be able to tell people when people complained about the Mandarin. I'm like, just watch this Marvel one-shot. Shut up.
Yep. That's all you need to watch,
It's a thing you want, and it's just more like potential for story. And I think that like Vision and Scarlet Witch will have a lot of potential for story, and whenever that show ends, it will just have more potential for story if they pop up in a movie again. And I think that they'll be able to do
and I think
it wisely.
there's also enough time in between certain movies for them to tell more story. Like Scarlet Witch and Vision could be in between Civil War and Infinity War.
Absolutely.
And there's 2 years of time where they could explore the story of those characters.
Yeah, and that also leads to an even bigger arc, really. Like that leads to the House of M, which is, do you want to even touch that? Like,
yes, because you know why? Because they got the X-Men now.
I mean, yeah, technically you have the X-Men now, but I mean, there was an article that came out that said that just because you have the X-Men and all these other characters doesn't even necessarily mean that we're going to see any of them.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Like you,
and in
there's
fact,
no
I
guarantee.
hope we don't for a long time.
That's what I'm saying.
And everybody freaks out about the X-Men being like, oh, they're going to have to find a new Wolverine. They're going to have to find a new Storm. They're going to have to find a new Colossus. They're going to have to find a new Deadpool. They're going to have to find and I'm like, stop. The X-Men should be 5 teenage kids in a school with one dude who's bald. That's it. Like,
that's all they need to be.
And then their
Don't
threat,
overcomplicate it.
fucking one guy Magneto. That's the movie.
I agree. Yeah,
That's it to start with.
So something tells me that Feige already had a contingency plan in case they joined. But I feel like they're already on such a good train. They have such good momentum right now that you can't just all of a sudden throw in, well, where were the mutants at this point?
No, that's not what it's about.
Are they going to go Terrigen Mist? Are they going to like all of a sudden throw in all this other crazy shit?
Spider-Man was easy because he was one character.
Correct.
Exactly.
And
this is a whole nother mythos.
It is, but I think that the X-Men can be easy. Same way that we went from Captain America, the Winter Soldier, to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that same thing. Well, how are you going to explain the X-Men? It's like, well, how did they explain the Guardians of the Galaxy? They did it in one movie. Yeah. It's a separate corner of the thing. It was disconnected and not on Earth. I get that. But how do you explain Doctor Strange? Well, they did it in his movie, his origin. Well, how do you explain Spider-Man? They did it in Civil War in 2 minutes, and then he got his own movie to further like, okay, here's what this one dude has been doing. Yeah. You can do that with a small team of people. Again, 5 teenage kids. Maybe make Angel black or something, or Latino. Maybe mix it up a little. Don't have to be the 5 good-looking white kids, right? We already know Iceman's gay. That's awesome. That's great. But do something with Beast. Do something with maybe Cyclops. Maybe Cyclops is Latino. Maybe Scott Summers is a Mexican kid. Yep. I don't know. Whatever. Jean Grey. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
You'll figure it out. It's your job.
But I'm saying 5 kids.
Then you have to explain Xavier, who's one of the greatest, most powerful mutants ever.
That's an easy one for it. It's the same thing for like, oh, the Ancient One has been a thing this whole time. How come she hasn't mixed it up with because it's like it's a separate.
I never even thought about that.
Right? It's like, where was she during the battle of the Avengers? Why wasn't she showing up with portals and shit and being like, the space whale is now in a portal? Like, she's irresponsible. Yeah. She's bad at her job. Unless that's not what the focus is on.
But it's then that's what I said. Like, I think it's right now it's too much of overkill to try to explain all these characters.
It's years from now, dude. It's years.
Plus, I think we've had so much X-Men in 20 years that it's kind of a Batman thing. I don't need to see another origin of these characters.
And just think about how they differentiated Tom Holland Spidey from just 2 years prior. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Think about those what were those differences? Okay. The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man had Gwen Stacy. Age is one. Like overall experience level, the sort of villains that he's dealing with, Aunt May relationship, no Uncle Ben, like all of those differences, you can transfer that from the X-Men 20th Century Fox movies, and it'll make you think and go, okay, so maybe Charles Xavier will look different. He will act different. Maybe his house will be different. Maybe the setup, maybe he won't have a big jet out of nowhere. Maybe, all these little cosmetic changes that they could easily do to make you go, oh shit, this feels like an X-Men comic that we haven't seen up on screen yet, while also being different than the movies on purpose. They're going to move away from the sort of movie. The good news is we haven't seen Patrick Stewart in the role officially as Charles Xavier since 2006.
14.
Right. Since 14, you're right. That was older. Because I'm like, 2006 was like The Last Stand.
Well, actually, no, he was in Logan.
He was,
but that wasn't like normal Charles Xavier. I'm saying, right? It's like him and Logan were not even like normal current day X-Men characters. It's like everything's gone to shit. So that one I don't count. Right? Or Deadpool. I
mean, I guess Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past, but even then, it's kind of a futuristic, like everything's
it's all
bad.
over the place in that whole universe.
Don't even get into that. Sorry. Yeah, don't even. Well, that kind of segues into the next article, though, which is kind of a downer.
This anger piece, apparently.
It goes back to what we were saying a long time ago. Like, not like this. I did not want all this stuff to happen like this. It's just the giant mergers. Feels like a monopoly is being created.
Slowly but surely.
Especially since the Spider-Man deal with Sony went through, I've always felt that the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a brand and Marvel Studios as a company, their trajectory is so amazing. It is so unavoidably successful that it would, to me, just a matter of time. Even if 20th Century Fox was doing X-Men movies for the foreseeable future and there was no merger that ever happened, for me in my brain, it was only a matter of time before Fox would have been like, hey, can we work together on a Fantastic Four movie? Because we can't figure this out. Hey, can we? Okay,
we can't ignore your success.
We finished,
anymore.
Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. We did 3 or 4 Deadpool movies with Ryan Reynolds. He's fantastic. Can we work together and hype up both of our things at the same? To me, it was only a matter of time. So so if this merger had never happened, I still feel like it would have eventually. We would have gotten these characters in the world, and I would have gotten my dumb
100%.
So
100%.
it wasn't I never wanted to get my dumb shit by being like corporate things merge. I was like, no, there's a workaround, which is basically the Sony Spidey deal.
Yeah, but I mean, this goes way beyond that, obviously, because it's a failing company. It's just the guy feels like he just didn't want the responsibility of this company anymore, and he was just like, well, we're gonna sell, and so. There was an article that came out. Who wrote this article?
This is from the Hollywood Reporter.
From the Hollywood Reporter.
It is massive.
It's a huge article.
It's a very big article. So it's gonna all the articles will be linked down in the description. But like this one really requires a read through because it is massive.
Right. And so the thing that gets me the most about this article is clearly because we've all been in the industry.
Yeah.
We all know somebody who is potentially going to lose their job.
We know someone directly who works here whose husband is going to be potentially affected by this.
Right, exactly. Somebody who I work with at my current job, their husband got laid off the day this merger or the day the selling was announced.
Wow.
Because he was a part of a home entertainment deal. So this guy, Rich Greenfield, who is a skeptic analyst, Rich Greenfield, puts the numbers expecting about 4,000 jobs initially to just be cut off, which fucking sucks. And he's expecting 5,000 to 10,000 over the next couple of years. So this is it's a huge, it doesn't seem like a huge thing because we're seeing layoffs in like other companies, like the car manufacturing companies and things like that, which is,
or the internet
companies.
Industry.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is like in a tiny, tiny little industry in which everybody kind of knows each other.
They lose their job, where they're going to go. There's less places for them to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like I pissed off a lot of people yesterday when I tweeted, "Hey, when you're watching your MCU X-Men movie, remember that like this cost initially 4,000 jobs."
Right.
And a lot of people took it personally, saying like, "I shouldn't feel bad about watching this movie."
Right.
Because 4,000 people. I'm like, I'm not telling you that you should feel guilty.
Right.
I know that you're excited about the X-Men going into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
So are we. It is a small piece of the puzzle.
Minuscule
Compared to what this actually means for the industry.
Right.
And how and what the ramifications of this are for the entire entertainment industry.
Right.
To your point, this merger and 4,000 jobs being lost doesn't also include every single week the hundreds, not the 10 to 20 people who lose their job, the hundreds. Vice, BuzzFeed, all these entertainment companies who are laying off hundreds and hundreds of people every single week. What is that doing to our industry?
Right, exactly.
What does it mean when a giant corporation, one of the 6, 21st Century Fox, takes all of its assets and either makes a new company, which is going to be New Fox, which will handle all the television stuff, or takes all their movie assets and merges it with Disney? You're losing jobs, losing opportunities, and that also doesn't equate to all the other things that are happening. So it's like, I get it when people say like, I shouldn't feel guilty. I'm not telling you to feel guilty. I just want you to understand that it is a bigger piece. There's a much bigger piece that could affect future franchises that you love.
Right, exactly.
You know, like, and in this article, they talked about how when Disney acquired Marvel Studios or Marvel Entertainment and Lucasfilm, there weren't losses.
Correct.
Because those companies were so small that they were just absorbed and they kind of let them do their own thing.
Yes.
21st Century Fox has over, I think it's 22,000 employees worldwide.
that have effectively the same jobs as Disney employees.
Right.
Exactly.
So
There's duplicate
it's like-
jobs happening. Yeah.
Disney has over 400, I think, thousand worldwide. So
Yeah.
when we talk about these things, it's not for you to feel guilty. It's for you to understand, like, oh, shit, it's not necessarily a good thing when Comcast and Disney want to buy these giant corporate. Like, imagine if next week Warner Brothers announced that it was selling again, and Disney was like, we're going to absorb you and AT&T and everything. Like, I don't want that.
Oh,
That
God.
completely like eliminates opportunity for people in the industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to have more of what's happening now where you have thousands and thousands of independent production companies starting up.
Yeah.
And it's like, how sustainable is that?
Yeah.
It's
How
not.
many
It's not.
how many like micro production companies can you have before the industry, like, how do you fund all that? It's like a
don't know,
vicious
man.
Well,
circle.
that's the thing, though. We know so many people who have started companies and closed right away.
Yeah,
and
they don't sustain.
It's not sustainable, and it's not something that people want to do all the time.
Yeah.
and it's just like I jumped out of the industry because it was so stressful. Like I couldn't deal with that kind of
I
stress.
mean,
And
look what's happened with the visual effects industry since from the time that we've started, even like right before we started working in
Which was
to now.
for me 2011.
Yeah.
Barely a blink ago.
Yeah.
And already our whole chunks of kind of what we were doing in the industry was like, okay, cool, outsourced. Boop,
Bye.
boop.
Yeah, it's all gone.
All the jobs are gone.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like it's brutal, man.
Yeah, it's really freaking crazy, and I don't want to come off as also I don't know, just like maybe condescending to people
Or negative.
or negative to
No,
people
because
who
I think
don't
the
want
whole point of like why we're talking about this is to inform people.
Right,
And
right,
we-
right.
It's not for you to
we
be
also-
like, hey, you should know about it. It's more of a
It's-
something
if-
like, this
Yeah.
affects everyone.
If there's
Yeah.
also somebody out there who was offended and took it personally, like you said about your being like, hey, be aware of this thing, we all three of us should also not be guilted into feeling bad for talking about our industry and how things
Yeah, for
affect
sure.
us and
Yeah.
people that are in our lives
Yeah.
and people that we care about.
a company that I worked for 2 years
Yeah.
Yeah.
shut down completely,
Yeah.
shut its doors completely a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this was
Yeah.
over the
I
course of
remember
like
that, yeah.
18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't one of the first, but I was definitely like in the first big
the
group.
first batch to get.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and we've gone through it multiple times with the visual effects companies we've worked
Yeah.
at. So like,
Yeah.
this affects us all the time.
Yeah.
For the like, this has been 7 years, and it's affected us every single
Right, right,
time. So it's like this is an ongoing thing, and yeah, it is something that we're passionate about, we care about. So we are going to discuss it
Yeah.
and let you guys know.
Yeah, yeah,
what's
definitely.
happening. But yeah, it's a really chunky article that talks about a lot of stuff. Like, for example, they talk about how Fox Broadcasting, Fox News, and TV stations will be spun off into New Fox, headed by Lachlan Murdoch. Repercussions will be felt not only in Los Angeles, but worldwide.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you can't just think about Los Angeles. It's also these huge
Yeah.
corporations have companies or have offices all over the world because
Yeah.
they make movies and shows internationally. In fiscal 2018, Fox had 22,000 employees across the entire globe. Roughly 7,000 are expected to become part of New Fox. So, like, there will be some people who will transition. Disney promised $2 billion cost savings, so it's more than 4,000 layoffs, like we're talking about, to be expected. In terms of the movie stuff, let's see. It says there will be a new person who will be running that. They will be reporting to Alan Horn. And it says that her production team are expected to make as many as 4 to 5 films a year to theatrical release, far fewer than the typical 12 to 14 titles that Fox has been turning out annually.
Yeah, it's cut
Fox
in
has
half.
also been struggling a lot financially at the box office. Deadpool 2, success. Bohemian Rhapsody, pretty successful. A lot of the other stuff that they've been producing has not been doing well.
Right,
like
right,
movies like Predator, not doing well.
Yeah.
The Alien movies, not doing well. Like, they don't have a big franchise currently.
Right.
There's a lot of potential with Avatar. We have no clue because it's been 10 years since that franchise has had a movie. Will it produce a $2 billion hit? Like, who knows?
Apparently, Disney World is really investing a lot in it because they have a giant attraction
Yeah, they have
at
an
Disney
Avatar
World.
world, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's got to be something. But one thing I heard, one tweet that I got was like, well, I wonder what was going to happen to those jobs if this sale didn't happen. You know, like there are people being absorbed in, yes, but like I feel like this kind of acquisition from Disney. Well, I guess just the sale of the company was more of like the owner just saying, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to deal with this
Well, because he
anymore."
wants to, from what it sounds like, he wants to deal more with TV news.
Right, exactly.
Not film, not
like
movies.
this is just basically getting a burden off his back, which sucks because he's not making the effort to make it better, you know? And that's what is really getting me. It's like, cool, you're just going to sell it off. You're going to take the easy way out. And the people who are going to suffer is not you because you're making hundreds of billions of dollars off of this.
Yeah.
So everybody who is not in that position is going to take the hit from this.
Exactly. And you know, the tweets that I hate getting is when people look at this and they say like, it's worth it. And if these people can't get another job in this industry, they're not talented, they don't work hard, they don't deserve it.
Grossly
and I'm like,
ignorant.
That's
dismissive.
That's horrible.
It's insulting and it's ignorant.
Yeah.
It's all it. You can totally ignore that stuff, Adam, because it comes from people that don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. Right.
They haven't bothered to do any research, and also they're sociopaths that lack empathy.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to try to ever communicate with those kinds of people. That if you can't put yourself in the shoes of a person who works in an industry that is like being sold off in this way, out of your control, then if you can't understand that frustration, people make their livings out here, and it's not all just creative people on YouTube and shit. It's people that are like Teamsters and they work in
HR
audio
people
and HR people and
PAs,
like,
administrators,
like businesses and offices and stuff and insurance people and construction workers and all these people that will suffer more than the billionaires at the top.
Of course, it's not going to be the top dogs and the top executives whose severances. Like I know this based on experiences from the biotech industry and like all that stuff. When certain big pharma companies get absorbed in another big pharma companies, those people walk away with like tens of millions of dollars in severance. But the people who are in the office or in the lab doing all the work, a lot of them are not getting those severances.
Right, exactly.
And in our industry, entertainment, it's even worse. Like when when our company, our old VFX company went to Canada, they gave us 2 weeks of severance.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, top dogs are getting a few months to a year of severance. And it's like,
they're like, take your time.
Exactly. So you have to also understand that like this affects people's livelihood and it puts a lot of pressure on people to like, oh man, I got 4 weeks to find a work in an industry where we're laying off thousands of people a month. Yeah. So it's a lot more complicated than that.
It's very complicated. And I feel like this is a really chunky thing that we could talk about this for a really long time. And I don't want to like keep delving into the negative.
I think the takeaway is that because
that's what I want to focus on. The takeaway.
This is hyperheroes, right? We talk about superheroes and shit, right? The takeaway is
that's right, superheroes and
that's
shit.
what we're supposed to talk about. The takeaway
no one
is
wants to hear your opinions on corporate America, dicks.
Right.
The takeaway should be you should be aware of what this means, not just for the thing that you care about, which is cool that you care about it. We care about it too.
We care about it too.
We care like there's nothing wrong with like liking the Hulk and Wolverine at the same time. Like that's fine. That's awesome. That's great. Be aware of what the ramifications are for an industry. Be aware of what it could mean for monopolies. And that affects everything, and for communications, and for how it affects people around the world. To be aware of it means that you can make smart decisions as a consumer, and it means that you can decide for yourself what you're going to do, what you're going to invest, what you're going to put your money into, what you're going to buy stuff from, and what you can say, man. Because it sounds dumb, but like even small little things like when people complained about the Academy Awards being too white, and they were like #Oscar so white. That got heard and changes were made.
Yeah.
And if enough people were to tweet and be like, hey, we really want Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse released on 3D Blu-ray.
I love you, Hector.
So, like the company would hear that if enough people talked about that. So
I want my $40 3D Aquaman.
Those are harmless examples on purpose because this is a serious topic, and those are the Oscars one thing isn't harmless, but those are examples that like you could see, so that if you become aware and you become educated about something, you're not going to get blindsided by what a huge corporate entity has been doing right under your nose the whole time. That's not a bad thing to be informed, to be knowledgeable about stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying, put away your childish things and get into politics. No. Love your childish shit.
Yeah.
But
embrace it like we do.
But just be aware of who's playing with your toys and who has control of what,
who's
and
selling you
and
those
what they're
toys.
asking from you to be able to go play with those, to rent those toys. Because we're just renting them.
You really are just renting them.
and I think like for the time being, we should consider ourselves pretty lucky that even though something like Deadpool and the X-Men is being absorbed into a company like Disney that is very family-friendly first, that's their objective.
Right.
The fact that Bob Iger has said that, like, look, we understand that these franchises, especially Deadpool, has done the thing it's done, the success, because it is what it is, and we are going to adapt that into our company, into our Marvel, and still, like, it could have been very different where he was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not our image. We're going to do a PG-13 Deadpool.
Right. They knew what they were
then
getting
everyone would have been
themselves
pissed
into.
about
These
it.
corporations are also not 100% evil.
Yes.
They're full of people and people at the top, and sometimes those people show compassion. And a thing I really like that Disney did a few weeks ago, it was applauded by Brie Larson, was Bob Iger announced we're gonna meet and exceed that 4% challenge that was put forth by the industry by Tessa Thompson to be like, we're gonna do more than 4% of our big incoming movies are directed by women, more than 4%. And I'm like, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
So these are still groups of people. We can't separate a corporation from a people. How whatever Mitt Romney would like us to believe, don't listen to that guy. He's wrong. They're still they should be held accountable. They're still people. They're still capable of making good decisions and everything. And that's a good thing. But still, this whole thing is like not like this. We really wish this wasn't happening. This is a lot of jobs lost.
So don't take it as
sucks.
Don't take it as it's us saying we don't want to see the X-Men and the Avengers together.
Trust me.
It's a much bigger thing.
Pooch has been texting me for 2 weeks now about how excited he is for the X-Men to join. He's already sent me his fan casting, like how he can get into each role.
Oh, well now
so he's over Booster Gold that quickly.
No, he just wants to get into anything.
I don't blame him.
But he's excited, and I love that kind of excitement coming from him because I feel like he's looking at the silver lining which us fans are getting, which is great. And I also don't want to take away from that. Like getting the Fantastic Four, cool. Like we're most likely going to get the Fantastic Four. Getting the X-Men back is really, really cool. So those ideas are really cool. Just also have all this other information in the back of your head. Like this stuff cannot be forgotten.
It's the same thing like when we talk about like there's a website today that released an article that said Bryan Singer should direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Jesus Christ.
And removed it immediately. And I went,
God.
No. No. So it's having like that sort of perspective of like, be aware of stuff that's happening, not because you should be ashamed of like if you like Superman Returns or you like X-Men 1,
Great.
I get it.
Great.
Love it. Like it. I'm not saying you can't like it because of this.
Right.
Some people have an opposite stance where like, I don't like it because of that. That's totally fine too.
Yeah.
Just stay informed.
Yeah. No,
it's good for you.
I agree.
It's good for the people around you because when you have a certain stance, you can back it up with facts.
I agree.
And I think that's where we're going to end up today.
We were going in circles now, so let's just end it.
Maybe Sabretooth? Maybe Pooch can be a Sabretooth?
We're going to fan cast?
I think Pooch should change his name to Chris. And then he might get a chance.
He's in.
Yeah, he'll automatically. Good-looking white guy named Chris. Come on,
right.
That's the formula
Chris
to be an actor.
Sabretooth.
A Sabretooth.
That'd be pretty
exactly.
great.
Can he do a Cajun accent?
I would love to hear that.
Apparently that movie's not happening now because it's going to Disney.
Well,
but guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're on the podcast, thank you so much for listening. If you guys want to listen to the podcast, jump over to Spotify.
Maybe he could be the new Havoc.
Hector's never going to let me finish the show.
Hula hooping?
Alex Summers. No. Different.
You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are sold, and here every single week on a Hyper Rabbit Power Go. Make sure you subscribe. We're only 2,000 subscribers away from hitting 100,000.
Right. We're almost at 100K.
So close. So if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff that we're doing. Relaunching Patreon very, very soon, and we're gonna just keep on partying, having a good old time.
Yeah. Next week we'll hopefully have a lot more good news to talk about.
That's right. We hope every single week. We hope. If not, it'll still have fun.
Long shot. That's it.
He could be long shot.
Lucas, get us the hell out of here.